What's up everyone? Happy Wednesday, and today we have another edition of Leg Day. So normally what we've been doing with the clock is we've been doing a lot of really fast, explosive, short break, short active time, go, go, go type of circuits. Today we're going to kind of flip that around. So we're going to work more on endurance. So the clock is going to have 1 minute for each exercise. And I want you to focus on muscle engagement, mind-muscle connection. I'm going to give you guys a few tips to really help out with that, with each of these exercises. So we have 9 exercises, 2 rounds of the total circuit. So 1 minute on, 30 seconds off, rotate to that next one. We're going to go through 2 rounds. Some of these are going to be single leg. So with that first round, make sure you use the same leg. So decide if you're going to do the right leg first or the left leg first. And then the second round, you're just going to switch things up. All right, so 1 minute on the clock. First exercise here is going to be a curtsy lunge. You can do this one with 1 weight, with 2 weights, or body weight. Curtsy lunge is going to really emphasize the hips and the glutes as well as the quads here. So I'm going to demo with 2 weights. You can do this one with 1 or 2 legs. I'm going to do 1 leg at a time to make it a little bit more challenging. So you're going to step back, kind of rotate it back to neutral. So by doing that, you're stretching out that back part of the hip here. So you're kind of torquing and rotating as you step back. That back knee you want a couple inches off the ground, nice and tall with the torso. If you're not comfortable with that, you can do a regular reverse lunge instead. So I'm going to do that one with 1 leg at a time. You can also alternate if you prefer, but if you want more of a challenge, choose the single leg. That way you get more reps in per leg. Second exercise, we're going to do a deadlift, but I want you to emphasize the squeeze at the top. So what I mean by that, you're going to have your feet about hip width apart, keep the weights close to your body, hinge from the hips, and then as you come up, squeeze your butt as hard as you can for 2 seconds. Come down, squeeze your butt as hard as you can. When I say as hard as you can, I mean as hard as you can, and really try to hold that for 2 seconds. That way on the way down, you're getting a good hamstring workout. On the way up, you're getting a good glute workout. You can even make it a little bit harder if you wanted to do a kickstand deadlift, but same thing, really get that good squeeze. The next exercise is going to kind of piggyback off of that. You can use a weight here if you like, but you don't have to. Focus more on muscle engagement. So if you're using a weight to hold in the goblet position, you're just going to sit down, so your heels and your butt are touching, and then thrust the hips forward like that. Squeeze your butt. So come down, drive up. And you're going to squeeze your butt as hard as you can, just like you did with that deadlift. By the end of this exercise, you should really feel those glutes lighting up. The next one is going to be a sumo straddle squat. Again, emphasizing that squeeze of the glutes. You can hold the weight down like this, or if you want more range of motion, like this. Sumo is a stance, so it's a wide stance, toes out. Really try to exaggerate that if you can. Remember, we're squatting, not deadlifting, so stay vertical with your torso. And then as you come up, squeeze your glutes. Make sure you're not deadlifting here. So squat down, drive up, and squeeze. You're going to feel not only your glutes and quads, but also the inside part of your thighs during the sumo squat. The next one is going to be a bowler squat. You can do this one with weights, either 2 or 1, or even body weight. This one's going to test a little bit of everything. So it's technically more of a lunge variation than a squat, and we're going to work on a lot of balance here as well. So choose 1 leg. You're going to kind of lift that back leg off the ground. Think about doing a single leg squat, but bringing that back leg behind you, slightly forward, stand up. Don't allow that knee to cave in. If you're using 1 dumbbell, use it on the leg that's going back, like this. Okay, so you're just doing that single leg squat. You can also turn into more of a kickstand. So it becomes almost like a lunge. Bowler squat, really good for your hips, quads, and hamstrings. Choose 1 side for that. Next, we're going to do a bridge release. You don't need dumbbells here. If you want to use one, you can. Choose 1 leg to do the release. So you do a regular hip bridge, squeeze at the top, release, drop down. Regular hip bridge, release, drop down. So that way that one side has more eccentric control. Pick 1 leg, just like you would with the other ones. Next is going to be a prone leg lift. So prone just means you're laying down on your stomach. You can either do this one with straight legs or bent knee. What you're trying to do here is get your knee and quad off the ground, and it should be your glute doing all the work here. You shouldn't feel it anywhere else. Maybe a little bit in the hamstring, but really emphasizing the glute. Next, we're going to do a heel elevated squat. So if you have either a pair of light dumbbells that you can put your heels on, I'm using a plate. You can also kind of go on your tippy toes a little bit. The heel elevated squat, and you don't have to go heel elevated, it's just going to emphasize the quads a little bit more. So grab your weights. If you're able to elevate the heels, otherwise just go flat on the ground or stay on your tippy toes. Only the heels are on the weights here. Squat down, drive up. So the heel elevated squat is going to allow you to push those knees out further in front of your toes to emphasize the quads. Remember with the deadlifts, we said squeeze your glutes as hard as you can. With this one, I want you to squeeze your quads as you stand up, as hard as you can. And squeeze for about 2 or 3 seconds. Really get that blood flowing to the quads. Last one's going to be another quad finisher. No weights needed here. Body weight leg extension. So you get into a push-up position. You're going to bend the knees, drop the hips, so your heels and your butt are almost touching. Then you're going to extend. So bend and drop and extend. So when you extend, think about driving your knees up towards the ceiling and squeezing your quads as hard as you can. If you've never done this one before, take some time now, pause the video, practice a couple reps, get the hang of it, and then get back in it. So those are the 9 exercises. We're going to go through 2 rounds, 1 minute on the clock, 30-second break. We'll start with the curtsy lunge in about 30 seconds. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to do this single leg curtsy lunge just to get a little bit more volume. You can alternate if you prefer. I'm going to use 2 dumbbells if you can. Try with 2 weights. Otherwise, 1 dumbbell is fine. Even body weight is okay. Really trying to stretch out the hips and the glutes for this one. Okay, we'll start in 3, 2, 1. Let's go, curtsy lunge. So if you're using your weights, you're just going to step towards one side. So remember, we have a full minute on the clock here, but still treat it as if it's any other workout. Dropping that back knee, keeping your chest up, keep your back straight. You'll notice with these longer sets, you're going to get a lot more blood flow to the muscle that you're working, testing out your endurance, but also just giving it some extra stimulus. So it's a little bit different than what we normally do, which is a good thing, because you don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. For reference, we have about 20 seconds left. You should be feeling this one in the quad, but mostly in the outside part of your hip, right where that glute is. 10 seconds. Nice long 30-second break after this. 3, 2, 1, and break. So next we're going to do the deadlift with the squeeze. So just a regular deadlift, Romanian deadlift. And then as you come up, squeeze your glutes, hold for about 2 or 3 seconds before going back to it. I really want you guys to focus on the mind-muscle connection here. So actively trying to get those glutes engaged and squeezing as hard as you possibly can. It really does make a big difference. We'll start in about 5 seconds. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Feet hip width apart, hinge from the hips. Nice stretch in the hamstrings, and then as you come up, squeeze. Come down slow, stretch the hamstrings, come up, and squeeze. Make sure you keep those shoulders down and back. With the deadlift, weight is always on your heels, puffing that chest up, and keeping those dumbbells nice and close to your body the whole time, as if they're attached to your legs. So a great exercise here for the hamstrings, with that extra engagement and squeeze of the glutes, turns it into a glute dominant movement as well. We got about 25 seconds to go. Hip thrusts are going to be next. So piggybacking off of this one for more glutes. 15 seconds. 10 seconds to go. Keep your breathing here. You should find a nice rhythm. 3, 2, 1. All right, so hip thrust will be next. You can use a weight here, but you don't have to. Kind of sit back, drive up. And as you drive up, squeeze your glutes as hard as you can. Same thing. So these things may not seem like a big deal, But a workout like this, it's really important that you do consider the squeezing after each rep. Okay, 5 seconds. We're gonna start in 3, 2, 1. So drive those hips forward and squeeze. It's like an explosive hip drive. This exercise is fantastic if you happen to have like a resistance band that you can attach behind you. That extra resistance makes your hips and glutes do more work. But make sure you get a good squeeze at the top. That's the only part of this exercise that matters, is that you extend the hips and you get that solid squeeze. 30 seconds. You should be feeling the blood flow going to those glutes. Make sure you're not overextending that back either. So just a neutral hip extension, actively focusing on the muscle that should be working here. So you're not just going through the motions, you're being intentional with it. Less than 10 seconds to go. Sumo squat / straddle up next. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the sumo wide stance, toes out, you're gonna go down. But again, I want you to focus on squeezing those glutes at the top. You're gonna notice it kind of compounds and gets better and better the more you do it. You're gonna feel this one, the quads, the glutes, but also the inside part of the thighs. So really try to emphasize a wider stance. If you're a little tighter, you won't be able to get that far, which is okay, but try your best to get as far as you can. Okay, 3, 2, 1, so wide stance, toes out, squat down, drive those knees out, and then squeeze your glutes at the top. Remember, you're squatting here, not deadlifting. So think about it first as a knee flexion movement, not a hip hinge movement. And keep an eye out on your knees. Naturally, you're gonna wanna cave in, but you wanna actively drive them out and try to line them up with your feet. We're almost halfway there. Don't forget to squeeze those glutes at the top of each rep. 25 seconds. Next, we're gonna do the bowler squats. That will be one of the harder ones of the round for sure. Okay, just over 10 seconds. Nice and low with the squat, full hip extension. You can go nice and heavy with most of these exercises too, guys, if you have heavy weights. 3, 2, 1. So choose one leg, whichever one you did with the curtsy lunge. The bowler squat, you're just gonna release that back leg. It's like a single leg squat. Body slightly leans forward, but it's not a deadlift, right? You're not totally hinging. You're bending from the knee until you can't go anymore, and then you lean forward a little bit. Mostly quads and glute. It's gonna also test your balance. If you can support it and stabilize it, that's a good sign. Otherwise, try to bring your back foot down. 3, 2, 1, let's go. So think about it like a single leg squat. Stand up, back to neutral. Takes a couple reps to get used to it as well. If you can't do it with weights, try without weights. And watch what's happening to your foot and your knee. They're gonna try to kind of shake because of the stability, and you wanna try to maintain that and keep it as stable as you can the whole time. Try to get down as low as you can with that lunge / squat. The lower you get down here, the more you're gonna feel it in the glute. Otherwise, if you're not getting down low, you're only really working your quads a little bit, and it becomes more of a balance exercise than a leg workout. We got just over 10 seconds. The bridge releases will be up next. 3, 2, 1. All right, bridge release on your back. Regular hip bridge, then release one leg and drop down. The leg that you've been working this entire set stays down the whole time. So if you've been doing all the single leg stuff on your right foot always stays down on the ground. So hip bridge, you can do this one with a weight if you like, but you don't have to. Hip bridge up, squeeze your glutes, lift the non-working leg up, and come down slow and controlled. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hip bridge, leg up, down nice and controlled. Hip bridge, leg up. And by now you should really feel, or at least by the end of this set, you're gonna really feel a good pump in that one glute. So this exercise, working both the glutes and the hamstrings. But hip bridges ideally should be mostly glutes. If you're feeling it mostly in the hamstrings, make sure your feet aren't too far out in front of you. We got about 25 seconds to go. So regular hip bridge, lift that leg up, drop down, nice and controlled. Hip bridge, leg up, nice and controlled. Make sure you're not overarching that back. You don't want to feel this in the lower back at all. Almost there. 3, 2, 1. All right, so next we're gonna do that prone leg lift. So you're gonna lay down on your stomach. If you've been using your right leg, you're gonna lift that right leg off the ground, either straight leg or bent knee. Doing so by really engaging the glute and getting the hip to do the work. Just like the last one, you should only feel this one in the glutes, nowhere else. So if you start to feel in the back, take a break, rest up for a little bit, and then go back at it. Okay, let's get ready in 3, 2, 1. So you can either go straight or a little bit easier is bend. And then once you have that little bend, you're gonna lift up, drop down. Notice the rest of my body doesn't move here. It's just my leg. There's no movement from my torso. My elbows are relaxed. When you have weak glutes, you're gonna notice your whole body kind of starts to compensate. But this exercise is meant to really isolate the glutes, not only identifying the weaknesses, but also correct it if you're doing it properly. And if you're not able to get as high up as I can, that's okay, just do what you can do. Think about bringing your quad and your knee off the ground here. We have 20 seconds to go. We have 2 exercises left in the first round, more quad dominant exercises, giving those glutes a little bit of a break. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so next you're gonna use your dumbbells or plate. We're gonna try a heel elevated squat. If you don't have access to it, you can do a regular squat. Try to get those quads working. So this time I want you to emphasize the quads. So when you're standing up, push those knees back and squeeze your quads as hard as you can. You'll really feel the difference here. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Remember, if you are elevating your feet, it's only the heels. The rest of your foot is on the ground. Try to drive those knees forward, get down as low as you can, and then at the top of the rep, squeeze your quads. Forcefully, try to hold it for a good 2 or 3 seconds. This one you can go nice and heavy as well. All you're doing with the weights is just holding on to them. So squeeze, hold, and then down slow and controlled. Like I said, it really does make a difference if you're getting that active squeeze. For those of you who've never done that before, you should be able to feel a much bigger difference in how your quads are working here versus a regular squat. 10 seconds to go. We're gonna go back to the curtsy lunge, leg extensions next before the curtsy lunge. 3, 2, 1. So leg extension, you don't need any weight here. Push up position, bend the knees, and then fully extend. Just like that last exercise, this one is almost exclusive to the quads. Make sure you can do it right first, so take a couple of reps if you need to. You want to feel this one burn in right above the knees, right below the hips, in the front part of your leg. So 10 seconds to go, and then we'll do the leg extensions. 3, 2, 1, let's go. So push up position, drop those hips, seal my knees and hips are low, and then drive up. Bend knees, low hips, drive up. Just like with that last exercise, I'm actively squeezing my quads at the top here. It makes a really big difference. By the end of the minute here, your quads should be on fire. That's what we're doing with the whole endurance type of workout today. So nothing explosive, nothing really fast-paced, but just a lot of repetition in a long period of time. 20 seconds. Legs should be burning out, guys. Make sure you get that full extension of the legs and that good squeeze. in your quads. 10 seconds. Round 2 is coming up next. So curtsy lunges. 3, 2, 1. All right, curtsy lunge. If you did like I did with the single leg, you're gonna switch legs this time. Otherwise, you can do the alternating curtsy lunge again. So round 2, one more of each. Okay, we'll start up in 10 seconds. Try to get that back knee nice and low here if you can. All right, 3, 2, 1. Step back, kind of rotate in. I like to always have my front foot, the toes pointed straight ahead. And really try to emphasize that stretch in the hips. So that step back, not only are you stepping back, but you're also rotating. And that's going to help get the glutes engaged. It's going to help with more hip stability. Make sure you're not torquing from the knees, so think about it from the hips. And if you are feeling it anywhere other than the quads and the glutes, just do a reverse lunge as a modification. We have about 20 seconds to go. The deadlift with the squeeze is coming up next. You're going to notice during the second round, the glutes are going to start to really get hit hard. Finish it off. 10 seconds. Let's go right to the end. 3, 2, 1. So 30-second break. We're going to do the deadlift with the squeeze. Keep it up with that squeezing. Just because you're getting fatigued or tired, it's important that you walk out by squeezing the glutes. Sometimes what happens if you don't walk out from the hips, if you don't squeeze the glutes, then your back ends up overextending, and you don't want to feel these in your back. The point of having strong glutes is to save your low back from feeling it in every exercise. All right, 3, 2, 1. So hinge, and then squeeze at the top. So the glutes are actually the biggest and strongest muscles in your body. When you have strong glutes, they act as shock absorbers. So meaning they take a lot of pressure off of your knees and your low back. With every step that you take when you're walking, if you have strong glutes, they save your joints by kind of absorbing that shock of each step. People who have weak glutes tend to have bad knees, bad back, bad hips, because they don't have that really strong muscle to support them. Make sure you're getting that squeeze at the top, guys. 20 seconds to go. On the way down is the hamstrings. On the way up, the glutes. 10 seconds. Hip thrusts coming up next. 3, 2, 1. Hip thrusts. So remember, you can go one dumbbell or none. Sit back so you're sitting down on your heels, and then drive those hips up. Extend the hips, squeeze your glutes as hard as you can. This one is a simple movement because you're only working that hip joint, but it means it's really important that you get that good squeeze. Otherwise, you're not really getting the benefit from the exercise here. All right, we're gonna get started in 3, 2, 1. So heels down, hips up. Down nice and controlled, hips up. You'll notice as I come up, it is more of an explosive exercise here. And I'm forcefully squeezing the glutes. You know how many times I'm going to say squeeze the glutes today? Because I know once we get fatigued, once you start to feel that burn, or once you start to sweat a little bit, it's easy to just go through the motions. But if you're going through the motions, not only are you going to make it much easier than it should be, but you're also not getting the benefits of what actually happens when you're being intentional with which muscles should be working. We've got about 25 seconds to go. Sumo straddles are up next. The good thing with this workout is because the sets are so long, the workout feels like it just flies by. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. So sumo straddle, wide stance, get down low. Remember to squeeze the glutes at the top again as well. And with this one, you can definitely go nice and heavy. So if you do have a heavier weight at home, now's the time to use it. You can also use 2 weights and keep them really close together if you want a little bit more effort, more work. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Remember, wide stance, and actively point those toes out. From there, you're going to squat, come up, and squeeze. You know the drill. And watch out for those knees too. The knees are going to be naturally wanting to come in because of the wide stance. So it's your job to push them out, which in itself is a working of what we call the glute med. And that's a muscle that helps support the knees. So it's really important that you're able to control that. You don't want to be squatting down with any variation with your knees caving in all the time. Putting a lot of pressure on your ACL, a lot of pressure on your knees in general when you do that. Which is why it's so important to be active and intentional with the knees, bringing them out and tracking them over your feet. Get down nice and low here, keep that weight close to your body. Get that good squeeze for 2 seconds at the top. Don't forget that. Almost there. 3, 2, 1. All right, next we're gonna do a bowler squat, this time on the other side. And you're gonna notice probably that one side is gonna be easier than the other. And it's really important that you choose to do that weaker side and not just compensate or modify, but try to make it the exact same as you would with your dominant side. Otherwise, you just keep perpetuating that same weakness over and over again. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So back leg is released, then the knee slightly forward. Always trying to get down as low as you can here. You're going to work on your stability, your balance, your mobility. So it's a really good exercise. This is one of those exercises if you're already relatively fit but you don't have heavy weights at home. This exercise can really help make up for that and give you a good bang for your buck, as you can say. Halfway, 30 seconds. Nice and low. Great exercise here for the quad and the hip. And it's just really a functional exercise. 18 seconds left. Make sure that foot stays flat as well, so don't allow the heel to come off the ground, because as soon as that happens, you're going to lose your balance. Less than 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so next we're going to do the bridge release. So regular hip bridge, this time switch legs, release one leg, come down nice and controlled. We have 4 sets to go, and then we're done for today. So even though it's not really cardio heavy exercise or workout, you're still going to get that sweat going by the end, especially after an exercise like that bowler squat. If you're doing it properly, going relatively heavy, nice and low. So let's get ready here for the bridge releases. In 3, 2, 1, hip bridge up, release, and down. Remember to keep your feet nice and close to your body here. But you also, there's kind of a happy medium. You don't want to bring them too close. If you bring them too close, you're going to end up feeling it mostly in the quads, which you don't want here as well. So you want to have relatively vertical shins when you're doing any sort of hip bridge or hip thrust exercise. Halfway there, 30 seconds. Get that squeeze at the top, and then make sure you're coming down nice and slow. The heels should be doing all the work here. So not the balls of your feet, but the heels should be digging into the ground, both the way the bridge up and the bridge on the way down. Almost there. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so next we're going to do that prone leg lift. So on your stomach, bend the knee if you want to make it easier. Straighten that leg if you want to make it harder. Bring that knee and the quad off the ground. Really try to engage and activate that glute. One of the best exercises for just isolating the quads. Great for like a starter, a muscle activation exercise, but also as a finisher. All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. So remember, bent knees will be a little bit easier here. One of my favorite exercises that even makes this a little bit more challenging is to do the straight leg version of it, but get a partner to push down on your hamstring to provide a little bit more resistance. Your glutes will be absolutely lit up after that, assuming that you're able to engage them correctly. This is one of those exercises where it can really tell me how strong your glutes are. If you can get really good range of motion here, if you're feeling it in the glute, if your low back isn't arching too much, if the rest of your body isn't moving too much, that tells me a lot about the strength of your glute and overall hip stability that you have. So it looks like a simple movement, and for those of you who have really strong glutes, this won't be too bad anyway. But for those who struggle with having weaker glutes, this can be one of those exercises that looks easy, but is really, really challenging. Almost there. 3, 2, 1. All right, 2 more sets here. Heel elevated squat, leg extensions, and then we're done for today. Okay, so we're going to finish off today by hammering those quads. Remember to squeeze the quad at the top of each rep here. We'll start in 10 seconds. 2 weights, nice and heavy here. Drive those knees forward. 3, 2, 1. So there's so many different ways you can manipulate body position to kind of hit different muscle groups. So if you're someone who has really bad knees, then you wouldn't want to do this variation. You wouldn't want to force your knees forward. Instead, you can sit back on the heels a lot more and try more of a vertical shin type of squat. But for those who want to build the quads and don't really have bad knees, this is probably my favorite squat variation. You can do it with any sort of piece of equipment, whether it's a barbell, kettlebells, landmine, just elevating the heels, driving those knees forward, and squeezing the quads at the top. Probably my favorite way to build the quads. Especially if you're hamstring or glute dominant, a regular squat can easily turn into a glute dominant exercise. So if you want to hit the quads, you got to manipulate a little bit. 3, 2, 1. All right, last set here. Leg extension, so push-up position. This one, if you're doing it right, should absolutely burn those quads to finish it off. This is the last set of the day, so I want you to get that full range of motion. I want you to drive those knees up towards the ceiling and then squeeze your quads as hard as you can at the top of each rep. And then we're all done. Okay, 10 seconds, and we'll get started here. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So bend knees, control, explode up, and hold. So these different workouts are really challenging for people who are more fast twitch, who are able to lift really heavy and sprint really fast but don't have good endurance. And conversely, these workouts generally aren't too bad for people who have more slow twitch muscle fibers. So maybe not as explosive, not as fast, but able to sustain exercises for a longer period of time. With a lot of long distance runners, we're trying to work out like this easier than someone who lifts a lot of weight and is always explosive, because there's different genetic muscle fibers that you're using depending on the exercise and the workout. Keep squeezing those quads, guys. Should be on fire by now. We're almost done. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and we are done. That's it for today, guys. Let me know if you finished this workout, and we'll see you tomorrow for core.